Welcome to the most powerful decks of Master Duel. I'm going to be simplifying every single powerful deck and giving you the best deck list on how to play them. This is an objective tier list, automatically updated. This is not some YouTube crappy opinion of their favorite decks. Heck no. These are automated tournaments. Also, you could look at non-tournaments. We're also basing this off of all the decks that are getting Plat 1 or topping tournaments. There's a lot of them. Let's get into it.
There can only be one winner, and you're looking at it. Let's go.
Back to Duel Links. We're going to start with the tier list from Tier 1, Zodiac Tri-Brigade. What is this deck all about? This is the deck type breakdown. This deck is all about on their first turn searching for Tri-Brigade Revolt to use it on your turn to then summon a Shiraig the Ominous Omen. The Ominous Omen will banish a card you control without targeting. Also, it's going to give them a follow-up play. The follow-up play will allow them to get access to Access Code Talker to wipe your field, attack for 5,300 damage. This deck's all about filling up your graveyard with Tri-Brigades to make one card link summon plays. And with the Zodiacs, they're able to summon Zeus. Now, here is a good deck list, or I should say the best deck list to play the deck. Next up, we have Drytron. Drytron deck type breakdown. This deck is all about using the machine Drytrons to tribute a monster on their field or hand to summon onto the field to help with ritual summoning. What are they ritual summoning? Well, if they're going first, they're making Herald of Ultimateness. Herald of Ultimateness will be essentially a floodgate. A lot of people don't consider it a floodgate, but they're a fool. A floodgate is something where if you don't directly deal with that card itself, it's not play aroundable, then you lose. That is what Herald of Ultimateness is. They will negate everything you do by having a full hand to discard to help negate. If they're going second, they're going to be stealing your monsters with Natasha, and then they have cards like Herald of Orange Light, which is further negating your plays, Ava filling up their hand. This deck is nuts. Here's a top sample deck of how to play Drytron. Virtual Worlds. What are Virtual Worlds all about? They're all about the VFD, the true king of all calamities. This will prevent your opponent from activating any monster effects from the hand and graveyard if they call the right attribute. Otherwise, your monster on the field cannot attack, cannot activate, does not negate. And what the deck also does is they'll banish anything that is sent from the field to the graveyard while they have Shen Shen face up. They can also control you with Chuchi, as they could quickly pop any face-up card in the field. Here's the best deck list to play a deck like Virtual World. Emancipator, this deck is all about luck. They look at the top 5 cards of their deck, they summon a rock among those top 5 cards. What they are building towards after slowly getting there is through abusing the block dragon for link summoning and searching out all the cards they need. They'll probably have a guardian on the field to negate your monster effect to stop you from Nibiruing them. They will then have a Borreload Savage Dragon to negate you from doing anything. They'll probably have a Masquerena to summon a Unicorn during your turn to return a card in the field back into the deck. They will also very likely have a Union Carrier with a Buster Dragon equipped onto one of their monsters, preventing you from using your extra deck. This deck is nuts. It's quite oppressive. They'll also have an Apollo USA to negate any of your monster effects. This is what a deck list for the deck looks like. Eldritch, a deck that rarely uses the extra deck. It's a deck that uses and abuses skill drain because their monster effects do not activate or have continuous effects in the fields. The Eldritch Golden Lord could destroy cards in the field from the hand. It could summon itself from the grave, becoming 3,500 attack, indestructible by card effects. Also, they could summon their traps as monsters, which will pop cards on the field. It will also banish cards from your graveyard. They have very easy access to Eldritch through cards like the Eldlixir. They crazy recycle between the Golden Lands and the Eldlixirs. This deck is nuts. And here is a top sample deck for Eldritch. Lyrilusk Tri-Brigade, similar to the Tri-Brigade Zodiac deck, except they don't play Revolt to summon the Omen during your turn. What they're normally going to do is they're going to spam out their little birdies to then end on a card called Utopic Draco Future, indestructible by everything. It will negate a monster effect and steal your monster. They will also be making a Simorgh. Simorgh will be untargetable and special summoning during the end phase, a barrier statue preventing you from special summoning anything anything that's not wind, or they'll summon an Apex Avian, which will negate any play you do. It will also be untargetable thanks to the Samorg. The deck will also very likely be ending on an Ensemble Robin, which will, every time you special summon, it's going to return your monster back to your hand, and that's all in addition to having access to the Tri-Brigade cards like Omen to banish a card in the field. The deck is nuts. This is a top decklist example of what to play. Prank Kids still within the tier list. This deck is all about the little kids pranking you. You got the green, blue, and red. When combined with a fusion summon will help make your ultimate monster. The Prank Kids Battle Butler. This is non-targeting full monster field destruction during the opponent's turn. And the opponent being if you're the one playing the Prank Kids. Now, not only can it wipe out all monsters you control without targeting, it will be able to do it twice. It will be able to tribute itself by paying the cost with the Meow Moo so it doesn't have to tribute itself, and then it could tribute itself for real to wipe out your entire field of monsters during your turn if you're playing against this deck. Here's what a Prank Kid deck looks like on how you should play it. Moving on. Phantom Knights. Many people attribute to this deck to being the Rongo Bongo Heroic Champion deck, where if you summon this with enough materials by summoning the Gossip Shadow first, it will make it so your opponent cannot normal or special summon monsters. But beyond that, the deck can consistently summon a Utopic Draco Future to negate any monster effect and steal it. The deck could also very easily make an Apollo, also through the power of Rusty. Rusty is going to be the main card of this deck. Rusty gives you massive advantage, sets up your combos. If you summon a Dark Exceed wherever it's pointing to, it will pop cards in the field. So what they'll do during your turn, if you're playing against this, they'll have a Phantom Knight trap in their graveyard that will special summon a Break Sword from their graveyard, and then the Rusty will pop you, the Draco will negate you, Apollo will negate you. Also, with the Phantom Knight Fogblade set, they'll negate your monster effect, just like a Fiendish Chain if you know what that is. Also, watch out for their finishing move, the Arc Rebellion Exceed Dragon, which will gain the attack of every other monster on the field, also negating all face-up cards in the field and then attacking for game. This is what a deck list will look like for Phantom Knights. Invoked Dogmatica Shadow deck. This deck is all about their one card combo, normal summon Invoker. You normal summon Invoker, you now have a Makaba on the field. The Makaba could boost up to 3,500 attack, also will be able to negate any spell, trap, or monster effect. As long as they have that card type in their hand to discard to negate, it will also banish. This deck is also being assisted by Shadows being able to summon a Winda during your turn. During your turn, the Winda is going to say that you can't special summon more than once. Also, with the Dogmatica engine, they will be able to special summon the Dogmatica Fleurilist, the Knighted. I'm sure I pronounced that perfectly well. This will be able to quickly from their hand summon onto the field and negate any card effect from your monster that you're trying to do. Now let's look at a sample deck list of what's good with this. This is a very good way to build the deck. Sky Striker deck breakdown. Quickly, what does this deck do? This is a control deck. You could say similarly to Eldritch, where they both control the duel, but this deck does not use skill drain. It's all about your waifu, Rei. Rei puts on a new mech suit. She is a one-card link summon into blue, green, yellow, red. All of this is about gaining mass advantage, drawing a ton of cards, negating and stealing your opponent's cards, searching cards, negating cards, adding cards in the graveyard back to the hand. If you don't quickly beat this deck, they're going to overwhelm you with massive card advantage and steal your cards to make cards like Access Code Talker. Here's what a top example deck list looks like. Moving on. Dinos Breakdown. Dinos are all about the boss monster, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. This is non-targeting, flip your entire opponent's field face down, can attack into every single monster in the field. You can give it piercing damage, you can make it 7,000 attack. This deck is nuts. To help alongside the Tyranno, the deck is all about popping the baby. You pop the baby, you summon a dino from the deck over and over. Normally on their turn one turn, they'll very likely have a Tyranno for non-targeting flip down, Lagia negate. They'll also have a Borreload Savage Dragon. The deck also abuses Scrap Wyvern. Let's talk about the deck list. And by talk about the deck list, here is a top deck list on how to play the deck. Another great benefit of this deck is using Miscellaneous Source, protecting you from all activated card effects within the main phase, helping you make great plays in either going second or even first, protecting you from any disruption from your opponent, including a Nibiru. Thunder Dragons, what are they all about? They're all about their 2 boss monsters, the Thunder Dragon Colossus, which prevents your opponent from adding cards to their main deck to their hand except by drawing them. This stops a lot of decks that need to search. And then you have the Thunder Dragon Titan. While on the field, expect them to activate any Thunder Dragon card from their hand during your turn, like Thunder Dragon Dark, Thunder Dragon, Dragon Matrix. That will then make it so the Thunder Dragon Titan can pop a card in the field without even targeting. This deck is nuts. Let's look at a deck list. Here is how you'd want to play a Thunder Dragon deck. Salamangreat deck breakdown. This deck is all about using the same name link on top of itself to gain extra benefits. You're going to use the Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf to use and abuse your counter trap. This will continually be recycled. It's like a solemn judgment. Many say it's even better. Spell, trap, monster effect, you're going to negate. Being a counter trap means most cards in the game, like Ultimateness, could not even respond to this. You'll continually recycle this. Also, you could use the Salamangreat Rage. They're going to pop multiple cards in the field. The deck also has a lot of room for other cards like Impermanence, Maxi, Ash Blossom. That's what you should expect from Salamangreat. Here's a sample top deck on the way to play Salamangreat. Cyber Dragons. They're all about summoning Cyber Dragon Infinity to negate anything. Also, they could use their Cyber Dragon Seeger to boost up any of their Cyber Dragons to 4,200 attack. By boosting something to 4,200 attack, you could summon your deadly, insane Rampage Dragon, pop multiple back row cards in the field, attack 3 times, not at just 2,100 attack, but with the Seeger, you're going to be boosted 4,200 attack, 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 attack. This deck's nuts. This is how you should be playing your Cyber Dragon deck, a top tier example. Moving on. Heroes. This deck is all about using and abusing Dark Law. Dark Law will state that any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. If your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand, your Dark Law will activate to randomly banish from their hand. You're also going to be possibly setting up an absolute 0 play. If this is sent to the graveyard, wipe out all monsters, so you'll use Mass Change onto it to summon something like an Acid, which could then wipe out all of your opponent's back rows. So we have back row wipe, monster wipe, summon Dark Law, everything sent to the graveyard is banished. And if you survive their turn 1, they will then follow up summon a Trinity on you. This is 5,000 attack, attack everything on the field. This is the way you want to play heroes. True Draco deck breakdown. That's right, they don't play an extra deck. This deck is known for being the cheapest, most viable deck. It's not a top tier deck. It is a powerful deck though. The deck doesn't just play 3 skill drain, it plays 6. 3 and 3 skill drain. This is just like skill drain, only activatable if you have no extra deck. This deck makes tribute summoning viable by, instead of tributing monsters, you tribute your back row cards. They then activate to pop cards in the field. This deck also gains massive advantage through cards like Card of Demise, Draw 3, and it's balanced because you're not allowed to special summon that turn, which this deck does not do. Anytime your opponent's going to activate a monster effect, they're going to plus, 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 tons of pluses, tribute summoning, and 6 skill drains. How should you play this deck? And this is how. This is a great decklist example on how to play True Draco. Endemon, or Endymion, however you want to say it. This deck is all about the Mighty Master of Magic. It has a continuous spell effect to special summon onto the field, then wipe out nearly the entire field without targeting. You think you're gonna Apollo it? You can't. It's a continuous spell effect, so out of nowhere, you will get wiped. And if they are going first, they're gonna have a large field of Mighty Master of Magics, multiple of them. More than once they can activate their effect. There's multiple copies, negating a spell or trap, alongside a Jackal, negating a monster effect, having an Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, Omni negate anything. This deck is nuts. Here's a great decklist example on how to play the deck. Moving on. Ignister deck breakdown. This deck is all about turn 1. They're going to summon the ultimate arrival. This will be 4,000 to 6,000 attack, unaffected by everything. They'll be able to also negate anything you want to do just once by banishing a Donmari from the grave alongside your arrival. They will also be able to shuffle a card from your field back in the deck with the Wind Pegasus if you happen to destroy anything on their field. If they go second, you can expect a giant Axis Code Talker that will not only be able to attack once, but will be able to attack twice with a card like Update Jammer. Let's check out the deck list. Here is a deck list example on how to play the Ignister deck. Moving on. Dragon Link deck type breakdown. This very powerful deck is all about using Rocket Tracer for a 1-card level 8 synchro. They're going to make Chaos Ruler to mill the top 5 cards of the deck, also add a card to the hand among those top 5. It's all about banishing Light and Dark for Chaos Summoning. They'll have a Borreload Savage Dragon for negating. They might have a Hot Red Dragon Archfiend to negate any card in the field. They'll very likely have a Hieratic Seal to return any card in the field without targeting back to your hand that's face up. Similar to Adamancipator, if they're not going to have the Hieratic Seal in the field, they'll very likely have a Union Carrier equipping a Dragon Buster onto one of their monsters, like the Borreload, that is, preventing you from using your extra deck. And here is a top deck list example on how you should play this deck. Now, this is a Buster Blader version. If you want a more standard version, you could check them out like this one. This is a more standard non-Buster Blader version. Fair warning, we're going deep into the rogue tier, but still very powerful decks. We have Dragon Maid. They're all about special summoning during your turn with a tidying from the graveyard or returning your cards on the field back to your hand with the tidying. The deck will very likely on their first turn have a Dragon Maid Shiyu, an Omni Negate, and alongside it or a replacement for it, they'll have the Hieratic Seal, which will be non-targeting removal during your turn. The deck is all about the Dragon Maids turning into a bigger dragon version of themselves during the battle phase. Big green, big red, big pinky. That's what the deck does. Get ready for it. And here is a top deck example on how to play Dragon Maid. Code Talker. Holy crap, this deck is all about kind of like an Exodia-like turn. It's all about restricting your opponent's monster zones. They could summon this waifu onto your opponent's side of the field if you're playing this deck, basically blocking one of their monster zones. They could also lock up another monster zone. They also steal the opponent's extra monster zone by creating the U. They will use their own extra monster zone, and through pointing with their link arrows, they will connect 1, 2 to the middle. They'll have a Firewall Dragon, then another link on the right of it, and by finally completing the L into a U, they will steal your extra monster zone and lock up your main monster zones in addition to that. Here is a top example on how to play Code Talker. Numeron deck. This is a super cheesy one-turn kill deck. Through the power of Numeron Network and being able to search it with your Planet Pathfinder or your Numeron Wall, this will summon 4 Exceed monsters onto the field, and every time they battle, they will double the attack of all the other Exceeds. So you just need to attack twice into a monster, then you have 2 other monsters that will be 4,000 attack each, 8,000 life points. That is lethal. That is the plan. If the plan fails, they'll then drop an Apollo on you in main phase 2. The deck is super cheesy, giving you a Lava Golem or a Kaiju, then attacking into it multiple times, then attacking for game. And here is a top decklist example on how to play Numeron. That is as far as I'm willing to go. If I missed your favorite deck type, I'm very sorry. We were focusing on the most prominent, powerful decks. Some shout outs I would like to give to Madolche, Pendulum Magician, Earth Machine, Subterror, Spiral, Trap Tricks. If you want me to further explain all these other decks, you let me know if you liked this video. I don't want to make it too long, but I gave you a simplified version of every top deck and what to expect and how to play it with the best deck list for each. Let's go.